Hi, I am Denisio Matranga of Prophecy Broken, and today what I want to go over with you is a number of things. 12 universal laws, in which 5 you can add on to the 7 Hermetic principles, in which I went over in a previous video. Now, to go over these laws, I'm simply going to go over the extra 5. If you wish to go over the other 7, please refer to my last video. But it is not straight the universal laws. What I wish to get into is essentially how you can use these laws, or pointing out the laws, and then using simple tools so that once you know these laws, you can better incorporate them into your life, such as the power of intention, the power of the words I am, the law of attraction, and the ego, and how you can use the ego towards your betterment and not try to suppress it, but just suppress the part that is not beneficial, the lack system, if you wish to say of it. You know, as I said in a previous video, there is the lack system, or the system of incorporated lack, and then the system of incorporated incorporation, which is all about fruitfulness, and this is about entropy, or the continual breakdown of a system. So now, to get started, let's just jump right into the 12 universal laws, the extra 5. The first one is the law of divine oneness. The first one out of the 12 helps us to understand that we live in a world where everything is connected to everything. And everything we do, say, think, and believe affects others in the universe around us. And I'm going to get back into that. But I actually want to rehash the law of vibration, just to go over it, and then afterwards go into the part I wish to speak upon. The law of vibration states that everything in the universe moves, vibrates, and travels in circular patterns. The same principles of vibration in the physical world apply to our thoughts, feelings, desires, and wills in the etheric world. Each sound, thing, and even thought has its own vibrational frequency unique to itself. And so, to portray that last part, each sound, thing, and even thought has its own vibrational frequency unique to itself. A lot of people don't understand that if a piece of paper is the same piece of paper from the same tree, using the same kind of cells and everything, all the way down to the base level, then how can it be a different piece of paper? You know it's a different piece of paper, but you would say, oh well, because it's the same tree and same everything, that the vibrational frequency it contains is essentially unanimous across all the board of all those kinds of cells. That would be not correct, because think of twins. That twins, unless even if they were said put right next to each other every single moment of their life, right next to each other, they would still not be the same. Why is that? Think of the law of vibration, that if you consider atoms taking on vibrations from other atoms, that whatever experience the one on the left would feel versus the one on the right, if there's more vibration on the left, the one on the left is going to feel it more intensely on even a subtle level than the one on the right. And that even specification on the slightest extent changes them. And that you will see individuality arise, because even in that slight notion, that even the reaction, that's just a simple one, even the reaction to a different vibration of word, their name, that gives rise to obviously another thing that would determine them as well, even that slightest thing. And that's just understandable. Another one is the law of compensation. The law is the law of cause and effect applied to blessings and abundance that are provided for us. The visible effects of our deeds are given to us in gifts, money, inheritances, friendships, and blessings. And this is very much like karma, except for it's more like currency, except that currency, a lot of people need to change their mindsets about currency, because when you say you're spending money, you exert that energy. But energy is not even used in that way. How energy is used is in a cycle. You exchange your money, you circulate you exchange your energy, you circulate your energy. That is how you have to cognize your action, because even the subtle uh, structure in which fills your intent, it follows through within your intent. And so intent is a very powerful energy, which is truly the only energy we have when you think of it. Consciousness, that it is the only thing that gives rise to actions within the physical and mental capacity. And with that, I will continue on. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy. This eighth out of the 12 universal laws is a powerful one. It states that all persons have within them the power to change the conditions of their lives. Higher vibrations consume and transform lower ones. Thus, each of us can change the energies of our lives by understanding the universal laws and applying the principles in such a way as to effect change. So with this, energy wants to be transmuted. That if you see that from an energetic level, whether you look for as above, so below in the relation of atoms and planets, and then us in the middle, or middle ground in a sense, that with us, that as the atomic level has risen to find a medium for in relation to the planetary form, that it comes rise to us, and that if consciousness comes on all these lower levels to thus be formed in a structure to bring it together, that thus we come from, then you can postulate that even planets have consciousness, because if atoms can observe, and we can observe, and we follow as above, so below for atoms and planets, but atoms and planets were as above, so below before we came into the picture, quote unquote, though it could just be simultaneous, that you can also state that planets have observation and that planets have consciousness, planets have perception. And so you can see that from this atomic level, that for us, we have the physical and the mental. The physical learns by experience. The mental learns by knowledge. And so if the two of them make wisdom, then, and the two of them of body and mind make soul, then the soul learns from wisdom. That is the only, that is, you can't even say if it's knowledge or experience, because it's one and the same. And that is the thing that you would take on, is it not? The next law is the law of relativity. This law states that each person will receive a series of problems, such as tests of initiation, like hermetic tests, the mystery schools. For the purpose of strengthening the light within, we must consider each of these tests to be a challenge and remain connected to our hearts when proceeding to solve the problems. This law also teaches us to compare our problems to others' problems and put everything into its proper perspective. No matter how bad we perceive our situation to be, there is always someone who is in a worse situation. It is all relative. Okay. That one is self-explanatory, but when it gets into these kind of things, these kind of concepts, that in your interactions, whether it be mental or physical, portrayal of an expression of energy to one another, that when you go into concepts that they may feel backed up to, that they do that typically from a state of whatever ideology, even having an overview of ideology does not give a perspective of, oh, because I see that, that doesn't mean that, like, when I see that, it means that I don't need to conform to ideology, so they back themselves out. Technically, you still create an ideology because that is not how this works. So the typical tool is to make an ideology for yourself, but not to go off track to enough that when people have an ideology by just simply seeing ideologies, not thinking to back out, not thinking to make their own ideology and from their own understanding, that when you bring them concepts that whatever subjectively attacks that ideology according to them, they will react in subjective ways. And so it reinstates that everything is all relative. Um, the next are, oh, and that is all the laws. So now, to get into the power of intention, simply understand this, that the universe is analogous to the mind. That when you see galaxies over billions of years merging, and you see a number of them, it is completely analogous to the neural connections in our brain. But when you consider that these systems in the universe are already connected from an energetic and structural basis from dark energy and dark energy and dark matter, that they are already connected, that it shows that it's just a matter of playing it out, if that computes with people. And with that, since it is analogous to the neural connections in our brain, that you can picture the universe as a mind, and that you see that the mind in itself is completely transmuting its energy all the time, and folding back into itself, but also expanding. And with that, since it's continually expanding and continually creating, and with that expansion since that is analogous to since we already have an as above so below a paradox in relation to the structure, that you can claim that the property applies still. And so expanding is a thing that our minds do, and when you look at it, it is a matter of intent, that when you put your intents into things, that you do that based off of your ideology, based off of the structure that is guided you towards that result. And when you are able to look at situations, look at things, look at outcomes, whatever it may be, from a bird's eye view, from a perspective that acknowledging that this body is just physical and this mind is just mental, and that you are the soul, and that you are in this world and not of it, you can at any given moment in time separate yourself from a situation physically and mentally, which both gains experience and wisdom, experience and knowledge, and thus wisdom, that you can look at a situation, whether it be a struggle or a healthy situation, and look at it from this bird's eye view that gives you a perspective of what could have went better, what would have been the best outcome, so to speak. But it's not from a biased standpoint. It's just looking at all the properties and all the things that went down, and what you could break down in an actual stance to better, in turn, react with those energies and with those circumstances. And so, with that, mental exercises and goals achieved are just as much as the physical ones, because you put yourself on such a vibrational stance that your body already is in tune with that, and likewise your body attunes to your mind as well, or your mind attunes to your body. And so the same would apply to the physical circumstance, but what I'm simply stating is the body reacts to the mental circumstance. And so when you put yourself in that situation, you take yourself back, then you embody that. You take yourself to that higher vibration, and that is knowing that ledge, knowledge. And you do that in such a way that you experience it. And so it's truly one of the most trippiest things. If you think about it, it's like experiencing and knowing from your soul. Um, it's like interacting, if anything, from your soul. And so from that, um, I will just simply continue that whatever you intend upon, whatever you put your consciousness upon, it expands out. That's why we have these laws of attraction, that when you essentially you create things, events, whatever it may be, even the people that come into your life by the thoughts, feelings, and words and actions, um, that produce energies, which in turn attract like energies, attract similar energies. Negative energies attract negative energies, and positive energies attract positive ones. So um, it is simply magnetizing. It's like a glue of sorts. And so if you're realizing that all those energies on that extent is simply a mental circumstance, is simply potential of mind, almost like a thought form binding thought forms together, but it potentializes into a physical relation as like an echo of sorts, because that is what your body does to your mind, which does to your consciousness. That essentially, when you simply focus on things, that it is actually just expanding them. Um, and that is what you can see, because that is the same thing the universe does, draws in the energies and expands. And that is why when you dwell on things, you can learn more about it. You can observe, take stuff out, build layers, and make a whole system in which relates to that thing. And that's the same thing that atoms work. And so your mind is just as powerful. It's just knowledges. It's very interesting. Um, and then the next is the power of the words I and the word am. And so with this statement, your body already knows from a vibrational standpoint, from your interpretation of language, obviously. And then on top of that, the words itself, the vibrations it contains. There's a frequency to that, especially the frequency of intent. And so with that, when you say those words, anything that comes after it, your body reacts to compensate, because you are stating it. And if your mind states it, if your mind states it enough to where your vocal cords express it, thus a physical expression, thus a vibration, that on an evolutionary standpoint, it's almost like, why would something state the words I and am? It's almost like a purpose. If you realize that, like why do people do a lot of things? It doesn't follow suit with evolutionary stature. It does, but it's kind of a trip, but not in the same way that obviously the evolutionary stature that they wish you to believe and interpret, because it is more than that. It's not as simplified, but it is very interesting. And so what is this? What is this to do? Essentially, when you have this law of attraction, you focus your thoughts onto things, you focus your intention onto things, and you actualize with the I am, you embody, you act as if certain schematic character traits or personality traits, in which I actually got a sheet from school today. And you can simply use stuff like this to correlate what your skills are, what you need to improve on it by seeing what it is, and then also what you feel you need to improve on. You can use these kinds of charts and essentially just go over what you wish you want to expand upon, just by simply focusing on it and being aware when it comes around, that you will be aware when the situations rise, just as much as when you react to it, because you're putting that energy out there. But more than that, when you get to a point to where it relapses over and over by putting the energy out there, that you essentially you have so many energies that are within you that may not relate to that work. And so as you're working with those, they reflect out into the world around you. And so this is where your ego comes out as well, and it will come out so much to where you can perceive it until you get to the point to where it's very much internal. It's just energy. And with that, you can be conscious of statements like the word I and am, and then after that, not good at math, or I and am, and then smart. When you create a self-image, it is not wrong. It's not incorrect. It's not bad. It's just that there is a lot of things that come out of that essentially, it's not as simple as that. I'm just going off of this website that essentially constructs different feelings that you would feel in relation to that, and that's where the ego rises. That such as desire and wants, and even the feel of need and reliance. It's not a bad thing to have a need or reliance. Just simply that you can pull yourself down by from an egotistical standpoint. If it's, you may not even acknowledge it, that it's ego per se initially, but that it may be egotistical. It may be of the ego, which is the part of the conscious self that is kind of artificial if you see it, because it belongs in this pool of duality, and so it's the part that this duality constructed. It's very much the physical, because if you think about it, the consciousness belonging in the mind and whatnot, that even though like it's like very much in between, since it's like you see in the physical realm it belongs to the mental, then the egotistical, all the stuff that the body perceives and thus correlates to, thus make connections to create you and create ideologies and create ways of being and create your character and create your personality. That it's very much the flip side, the physical. Not saying that it is physical. It's just like an artificial light. And truthfully, that is what I'm coming to understand, is that you see God as a conscious construct that may be beyond, way above us. Not saying that it can't be embodied as a being. I just have acknowledged that people who have embodied so much light, like true light, not artificial light, have spontaneously combusted. And so with that, I'm not saying that it is impossible. I'm just saying that that it's possible if, say, they are the descendant. That's why I don't take away Jesus, but I can't say that he was per se from a, being there. But I believe that it is very much a realistic thing. It's not deniable, in my eyes, from my understanding of science and spirituality, which is one and the same in the first place. That when you look at this sort of artificial life as a construct that has been made for you, it has to do with exactly that statement, being of in this world and not of it. That when you relay the artificial light, it relays to one other thing, and the light relays to another within, say, the Christian Bible, for example. and that would be the artificial light is the one who, the Lucifer, and it's the Lucifer that is named Lucifer that fell down, but still did not lose his title. People don't understand that he didn't lose his title. Um, uh, Still has to go under God, always has in this story, and all these things. But essentially, this Lucifer, um, the definition in it refers to the one who holds the light. And a lot of people don't understand that he is called the bright morning star. There's one other being within this text that is called the bright morning star, and this is Jesus. And I wouldn't say that that is his name per se, but just correlating for understanding, compensating, I guess, for understanding that Jesus is also called the bright morning star, and this bright morning star is in relation to Lucifer, but the Lucifer in which he is called is a different word. It means the one who is the light. And so, do you align yourself with that conscious part of you that is continually expanding? Or do you align yourself with that unconscious part of you that is continually causing entropy on systems? The ego is the entropy, the consciousness is this light, and whichever you align yourself and you claim yourself as, whether by representation, like how you express yourself, how you hold yourself, and how you are, determines what you truly align with. Like you can make the conscious intent, but there's a follow-up of intents that needs to concur, like a follow-up of energy. It needs to concur with that information to line up with the embodiment of so. And so just like the law of attraction, you're still drawing the energy in, and technically that's just a reciprocation of intent. And so that is a matter of if you feel it holds to you or not. And with that, I think that this is all that is good at the time. And I would love if you left a like, a comment, and a subscribe, share the video, get this out there. And I appreciate all that can be done and put on this video on the comment section. I love it when I can learn from very contributing things, whether it's negative or positive, because you can always learn as long as it has a basis of information, that there is a perspective to look from. And so thank you very much. I appreciate it, and